I'm Yuri.
I'm Jacob.
And we're going for a virtual drive. 2021 Cadillac Escalade.
We obviously can't drive it right now. Hopefully we'll be back on the road soon, but in the meantime, watch some of our other videos, especially the 2019 Cadillac Escalade.
Yes, we literally have over 300 videos of us driving cars, so if you can't stand this right now, check some of those out. So the real big news about this Cadillac is we've got this crazy OLED screen, but let's start with the horsepower and torque.
420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque from a 6.2-liter V8. There's also an all-new Duramax 3-liter inline-six turbo diesel with 277 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. And they're both mated to a 10-speed auto. That is the only transmission option, so it's not really an option.
So most importantly, is this still body on frame?
Of course it's still body on frame, but there's a whole host of new things like magnetic ride control, air suspension, independent rear suspension, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, and you can really tell from the looks because it still looks so lifted.
However, apparently the air suspension can lower it 2 inches when it's parked, so that's a pretty substantial upgrade, I'd say. So we reviewed the 2019 Cadillac Escalade. We basically tore it apart. It needed so many updates, and this generation really delivers. So what would you like to start with first?
I think I want to start with the OLED screen instead of the looks, just because that's the craziest part of it.
Okay, so I looked at the press release. The amount of times OLED is mentioned is insane. It's too damn high!
Okay, so OLED always has darker black levels, which is a lot nicer, especially in a car. Just like my TV, which is an OLED from LG, the C9, that has the audio delay issue.
Yeah, you're still going on about that. Anyways, this has a 38-inch curved OLED display, which is an industry first, which is why they're so obsessed with it.
And it's like a double screen layout, so you've got a screen in front of you, and then you've got a screen that wraps around that in the back.
It's actually 3 screens, a 7.2-inch touchscreen on the left side of the gauge cluster, a 14.2-inch gauge cluster, and a 16.9-inch infotainment. But it all looks like it's one screen.
Yeah, and then when you do the car startup, you've got a nice animation that goes across all the screens and kind of flows right into the whole steering wheel.
It looks really premium, but I do have an issue with one thing, being able to clean it, because the center gauge cluster sticks out beyond the actual glass panel. So I think getting the dust out of that little crevice would be an absolute nightmare.
For the detailer.
Yeah, well, I think this is kind of like a really cool mom-dad mobile, so I think it's going to be the mom-dad cleaning this one. And now we have augmented reality navigation, which uses the built-in navigation, augmented reality, just like we use on Mercedes. Yuri, who's going to use that?
Nobody's going to use it because you've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so you use Google Maps so you don't get lost using some onboard stuff that probably sucks.
Exactly, and I believe Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are wireless, but I can't confirm that yet.
And the whole screen is obviously reskinned from the old Cadillac stuff and old GM stuff. It looks really nice, but it might be harder to find exactly what you're looking for. In the press footage, the one guy had to put it into Supercruise before he started using the infotainment.
Yeah, and he kept staring at the infotainment like for a long time. He had his eyes off the road.
And he wasn't even doing anything crazy. He was just like swiping left and right and picking one thing. Like there's literally like 6 frames of him looking forward. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I totally agree, but you can also control the infotainment with a rotary knob.
Yes, it's same like the one we had in the XT6. It's got the jog function and all that stuff, and it's got your volume knob in front of it. Kind of like Mazdas have and BMWs have. Mercedes don't have that anymore, so I think that is the redeeming feature of having a big screen that you really need to take your eyes off the road to use.
And we previously complained that the Escalade did not have a 360 camera. Now we have one as standard.
And then if you look at the 360 view where it kind of spins around the cars like a lot of other ones do, this one still looks kind of not that great.
And looking at the 360 configurator, I think we actually have rewinding satellite radio because it says live on the infotainment screen.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a bunch of ways to screw it up, even though you do have live. It might not have good rewinding. It might have a couple buttons to get there. It might not have tune mix, but it is promising.
And then if we zoom into the sun visor, it looks like it extends because it has a little bit of an arrow in the corner. So I'm going to say that this will extend.
Full virtual pass, maybe.
And the last thing with the infotainment and gauges, we now have night vision, just like we've seen on the Cadillac XT6 and all of its German rivals, basically.
Yeah, and there's also a front camera and all that stuff you can control from the very left touchscreen, which doesn't seem that intuitive, might be a little distracting while driving.
So now let's talk about the exterior. There are 5 different trims and 3 of them look slightly different from each other.
So pretty much all I see is a luxury version and a sport version, where the sport version is blacked out and the luxury has chrome.
And there's also a platinum version, which is supposed to look totally different as well.
I kind of like the chrome version more. I think I just like chrome on an Escalade.
I do know what you mean. I like the sport one, but it kind of looks too similar to the XT6 now. So Cadillac has done this whole thing where their entire lineup looks the same again. So I can't really differentiate the Escalade from the XT6 almost, other than its size.
Exactly, but it does have the new design language. I think they did a good job with the front, the way it looks. I kind of wish the grille was bigger though, like if it was just more vertically present.
And they changed up their headlights a little bit too, so that's a little bit different than the XT6. So overall, the front end looks really good, really beefy, still an Escalade.
Yeah, I really like how the DRLs are vertical and they don't end up at the top where the headlights are. They're like on the bottom, on the sides. I think it looks really good.
And moving around to the side, we also have 22-inch wheels as standard now.
And it looks like they cleaned up the body line a little bit. It looks a lot more simple and elegant, don't you think?
Yes.
And did you notice on the wheel arches, they kind of did that indent thing that Hyundai's been doing on everything. So it looks like it's got flares, but it doesn't.
Yeah, and it's going to look really good, especially when it's dumped, because we previously complained that it should have had air suspension, but now we do, so can't complain about that.
And I love that it still holds that big wheel gap from the side view when you see it.
And now soft closed doors are available as an option as well, so this thing's getting pretty luxurious.
And then moving on to the back, we still have really big vertical taillights, which I love. I think the Cadillac XT6 kind of lost that.
Yeah, that's been a Cadillac signature, so I like how they've modernized it. And then we got some pretty decent looking exhaust tips.
I mean, they're kind of okay. I think they're acceptable. And I really like how they squared off everything in the back end. It looks pretty future and it does look very sleek.
So overall, I think they did a really great job of updating and modernizing the Escalade, and now it's kind of in line with the Navigator. Yuri, what do you think?
They definitely didn't screw anything up, but I'm not as stoked on it as I was for that first Escalade that everybody really fell in love with.
It's always hard to follow up on the original, so I think they did a pretty good job this time.
Not the original Escalade. I'm talking like the first good Escalade, because the original Escalade looked just kind of like a GMC.
Yeah, but that was the one that everybody wanted because that had the big badge. That was in every rap video.
No, that's the second one, bro.
Am I really wrong about that?
Let's check.
And after careful analysis, apparently I do not have a memory.
So now moving on to the interior, it still looks nice and luxurious, but the main thing that I noticed is that there's more room in the third row.
Yeah, apparently there's 40% more leg room in the third row, and then there's also 68% more maximum cargo space behind the third row since the overall car is now longer.
And I feel like Escalades always had your knees stuck in your face in the third row, right?
Yeah, now we have independent rear suspension, so that helped with the whole suspension geometry, and then you also got some more room inside. So yeah, I think you're gonna have a lot more knee room, at least I will at 6'1.5".
And then we also have a totally flat load floor, which is nice.
Yeah, apparently there's 3,427 liters of storage capacity. So let's convert that to the box test. Check out patreon.com/TheStraightPipes to know what cars are coming up next, early access to videos, Visor tests. You can submit your own Visor test and put your name on a box. So shout out to Kevsky Bops. This is number 13, 14, 15, and 16. Our newest guy, Emmett W.
54, apparently twice as much as my Honda Element, which I doubt, and that's why liters of storage space is fake.
And that's why we do the box test, not the milk bag test. And if you're in America, you're going to be really confused by that statement.
And then if we're in the second row, we'll be able to see the screens that are mounted to the back of the driver and passenger seat. But I've got a little bit of marketing for this. In the Spike Lee video, when they show the back seats, it looks like there's no bezel on the back screens at all. And I'm like, oh, this looks awesome. Then when I actually look at the interior footage, there's like a huge bezel all the way around it. So I was slightly duped and I'm slightly disappointed.
Is there anything else for our marketing segment?
That's pretty much it. Like everything else was pretty solid for the Escalade.
I agree. The launch wasn't over the top or anything. So back to these screens. Apparently now that you can play games, videos, and music, and you can mirror an Android smartphone, not iPhones.
Fine, whatever.
However, I have never successfully used screen mirroring on my Android phone.
So then if we move on to the front, the whole general look and shapes of everything are pretty nice. I feel like the screen modernizes it, but everything else kind of keeps it at like 2018-ish level.
Yeah, we can't speak about the fit and finish, just judging from the press materials. I think it looks pretty good, and the interior color options are also pretty nice.
Yeah, the wood looks nice in there, but it does look a little bit like old person style wood and not the new matte open pore kind of wood that we've been seeing in a lot of other luxury brands. Then we also have some interior lighting, but in the press footage, it didn't even pop that much. Like, they made their own footage and they didn't make it look good, so I don't think it's gonna look that impressive in real life.
And even though everything is a touchscreen, it looks like we still have some climate control buttons. I'm not sure if they're touch or if they're actual hard buttons yet.
And then as much as I like the rotary controller knob for the feel and everything, if you look at it from every other angle, I feel like that part makes it look the cheapest. It doesn't look like as luxurious as a BMW's control panel and stuff.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but thank God they actually have it.
Yeah, no touchpad. No touchpad, please, Cadillac.
Do not learn from Lexus.
Or Mercedes.
And if we look at the rear view mirror, that's also a screen just like we've seen in pretty much every new Cadillac.
And this also has AKG audio, which I don't really know much about, but it does have speakers in the headrest, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, my Samsung headphones are made by AKG, so they sound pretty good. And now we have enhanced Supercruise, so now it can actually change lanes for you. We haven't actually experienced Supercruise yet. We were supposed to so many times, we never actually got an opportunity. So they actually map out the roads. You can use it on over 200,000 miles in North America, but it doesn't register on every single highway. So it's an interesting system that we haven't had a chance to drive yet.
Yeah, it's one of those systems that makes sure you're looking forward. So if you start looking to the side and stuff, it'll cancel you out. But the guy looking to the side to control the infotainment, I guess that's how much you're allowed to be distracted by it. So how about some driving stuff?
So now we have some better driving dynamics thanks to independent rear suspension, available magnetic ride control, air ride adaptive suspension, and we also have an electronic limited slip differential. And when we reviewed the 2019 Escalade, we complained about the ride quality and the need for air suspension in the segment, so it looks like all of our complaints have been addressed. So I'm excited to see what this is like when we actually get to drive it.
So with all that out of the way, let's get to the price.
So I couldn't actually find the Canadian price, however I did find the American price. So now it starts at $77,490 US, which is $1,000 more than the current price. So currently in Canada it starts at $87,698. So my prediction is $89,698.
And then it should be launching in the third quarter of 2020 as a 2021 model.
Yeah, and who knows what's happening with production delays because of everything going on in the world. So maybe it'll launch this year, hopefully it does.
Okay, and then one more marketing thing I want to talk about, but it's more related to the XT6 that we drove earlier this year. They had a whole ad campaign called Crew Ready. Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember that. It was terrible.
It was like, yeah, bring your whole crew in this like small compact 3-row SUV. The Escalade is crew ready. That's not crew ready. I don't want a crew to pick me up in that. I want them to pick me up in this new Escalade.
Yeah, the Escalade has always been crew ready. Like, that's the whip you want to get picked up in.
Okay, so now that we got that sorted, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see us actually driving cars, we've got about 300 more of them on the channel, so dig through that and pick whatever car you like.
I would recommend watching the 2019 Cadillac Escalade, which I'm going to put right here. I really liked ripping that thing apart.
Or our 2020 Cadillac XT6 review.